Hello, good evening. And just to prove that we're not perfectionists here on the LFC Daytrippers, I'm your host, Keith, and I've made an absolute balls at the start of this podcast. However, the lads have kept calm, and didn't panic, unlike me. And we've got the show back on the road. Sorry for the delay there. Can't blame anyone else, only myself. I see a lot of people in the chat are saying we can't blame Grizz. Cannot blame Grizz on this. If I could find a way to blame Grizz, I certainly would, but I can't, so I'm not going to. Lads, sorry about that little mess up there. Used to are no bother there. I'm the one that's all over the shop. As someone said, I'm having a navigator here, and I've made the balls of it. Look, we'll move on, and we'll go onwards and upwards. Lads, thank you for joining me. As you can see, it's not a fatback four tonight. It's there's only three of us here, and I'm delighted to be joined by Conroy and by Kev. Lads, how are you?
Not too bad. Recovering after yesterday's disappointment, I suppose, more than anything. Yeah. Frustration. You know, it's amazing how a result can put it down around your weekend, kind of thing.
At least it wasn't the 12:30 kickoff, Gabe. Look at the positives.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I got a few bonus hours, but yeah, yesterday was more frustration than anything else, because you just know that there were silly things. We'll get through it in the game when we go through the game, but it was just silliness in an awful lot of ways.
It really was. It's a frustrating thing, and you know, on the back of a really good week, to get that, it's, you know, a lot of people I think maybe are overreacting, saying it's derailing this and derailing that, and I just think it brought us back to earth a bit, you know, that way. And I think there's going to be many twists and turns as the season progresses and goes on. But lads, Conor, I'll start with you. Yesterday comes around. Were you confident going into the game before you saw the team news, and how did you react when you did see the starting 11?
I think right now we're confident for every game, and probably been confident for every home game against a team who's not in the top six for the past probably 3 years now, if you know what I mean. Even if we're not in good form, a lot of times we'll get away, even if it's a amazing win or a win by hook or by crook. But to be honest, with recent weeks, Keith, I've kind of took the lineup as it came in and just felt like we've had enough, especially like the win away to Atletico. Feel like even though we've not played amazing in every second of those games, we've got through it. So I was quite okay with the midfield. My memory went blank there. The midfield was Jones, Hendo and Keita to start with. Yeah. So I was feeling quite good with that, mate, to be honest. The front three as expected, because I think Jota will play against Atletico, because I know we'll get more onto that, but I'd said that last week. I think Mane didn't really do great against Trippier or the Atletico defence away. It's not bad, but he wasn't breaking him down that well. And I think with Jota's movement, Klopp's probably already made that decision the week before that Mane would want to prove a point yesterday, which he did, to be fair. Really good performance. And then so I was not surprised with the front three. Overall, going into it, I was confident. I've got a lot of respect for Brighton. I said that before. I think they've got a brilliant manager now. I think he's really proven that. But obviously, we are squad, even if we're a little bit depleted. We should have had more than enough to win that game, and I think you would both agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. Kev, the lineup comes in, and as Conroy touched on there, you know, maybe not that many surprises, considering certainly in the midfield what the options that we have at the moment. Yeah. Were you happy to see that lineup? Were you happy to see Konate retain his place? Were you happy to see the front three being that front three, or would you have done that slightly different?
No, I think that lineup, when I saw it, I thought, yeah, that's good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If anything, I said it when I was chatting to Gav on Friday night, that I thought the Brighton game would be a harder test than the Man United game, and that was no disrespect to United in any way. It was just the manner of how Brighton play as compared to how open and how many chances Man United will give you. How Brighton are a test.
Yeah, they're tactically astute, mate. Man United on. It's that simple.
Yeah, they're better in certain areas. And I thought, with Konate especially, we're going to have these with him. He's going to be up and down. He's still learning the system and how we play. But to be fair to him, I thought he was okay yesterday. Not great, not disastrous. He was fine. You know, he wasn't the issue yesterday. He did okay. And the problem is there was a fair few players yesterday who did okay.
Yeah.
When one or two needed to do a bit more than that. But no, the lineup itself was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. don't think there was any real arguments for anyone, you know.
Yeah,
Matip could have come back in, but look, you want to see Konate playing. You want to see how he gets on. The front three has been banging in goals left, right, and centre all season, so there's no problem there. And the midfield options at the moment are limited. So the lineup was fine as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, you don't mind seeing a bit of rotation with certainly Konate retaining his place, ahead of Matip, because look, we all know Matip's injury record isn't the best, you know, and he's been excellent this season, and you know, long may it continue. But we are going to have to manage Konate, and I'm surprised maybe not Virgil as well to an extent through more games, just to make sure that we're not pushing them too much. So I wasn't overly surprised, and if you'd have gone Matip or Konate there, I don't think.
Or Gomez, to be fair.
And Gomez looks to be maybe a bit the fourth option at the moment.
Yeah, but he needs minutes as well. Like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Where Virgil isn't getting the rest,
yeah.
Joe needs minutes, and I don't want to get it for him to get into a stage where he's starting to get frustrated with his place in the squad, and he starts to kick up a fuss, because at the minute we've got 4 top quality centre backs, and in fairness, he's earned enough. He's earned trust.
Yeah.
So that's the only question. Where is he going to find enough minutes to regain his match sharpness? Because Gomez is one of those players that needs a couple of games on the bounce.
He needs a run.
Yeah, he needs a couple of 2-3 games on the bounce to get into a run of it. And at the minute, we're leaking too many goals, you know. And I understand what Andy's saying there. Is it because the problem is in midfield? He wants stability at the back. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, in fairness, I think it's too easy to blame the midfield. I think on yesterday. They certainly, you know, as the game goes on, they're not great. But I think, Kev, you hit the nail on the head when you said too many players were just okay. You know, too many players. I think Virgil was sloppy, maybe. He wasn't his usual self. I thought Robbo and Trent were poor as well as the game went on. And Konate certainly wasn't the same imposing figure that he was at Old Trafford. But we'll move on to the midfield, lads, and it's Hendo, Naby, and Curtis. And look, we don't have many options there at the moment. You know, we know sort of we're down to the bare bones really in that part of the park. And I suppose you're missing a key player in Fabinho, because while Henderson can do a job, I certainly think he can do a job at the sort of defensive midfield number 6 type role. I think Graham Potter was very astute in what he done, and he played a false 9, and he put Leandro Trossard in there. He was usually maybe a winger and a tricky player, and it caused us no end of problems. Now, that's as the game goes on. We're going to go to the start of the game. We didn't have any problems at the start of the game, did we?
Oh, no.
And, you know, we got off to a great start, Kev. I'll stay with you on this. So, you know, 4
you say
minutes
that.
in.
Yeah, see, I'm not sure, but I'll let you go, Kev.
No, I was going to say, look, I thought Brighton were in it from the first minute.
Oh yeah, certainly. I just meant we got off to the perfect start.
We did. We started really well, but Alisson was forced into a really good save earlier on.
Twice.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, here we go. It's going to be one of these. We're going to get dragged into a game of football again. You know, and it was a game of egos. And I thought, if we don't get a grip of this, then we're going to be dragged into the game that Brighton want to play, rather than the game that we want to play. And as proved to be the case, the longer the game went on, it became a game of tennis, where it was, right, you have the ball, or a game of basketball, you have the ball, we have the ball. And in those kind of games, anything can happen. And it did, you know. I mean, we started brilliant. And for the first goal, in fairness, the ball out to Salah, and he waited for Jordan.
Yeah.
You could see him waiting, and he timed the run, and it was bang, one shot. And he composed the shot. He didn't bang it with power. It was side foot away from the keeper, and bang, in you go. Have that. It was a lovely goal. And but it was all made. The goal was made by the pass out to Salah, and I'm pretty sure
It was Virgil,
it came from Virgil out to Mo, and Mo, because he stays wide, he brought it in, waited, and then laid the pass off. It was a brilliant goal. It was really well worked. I was delighted with it.
It was a great strike, and it's something that I think, you know, Henderson certainly has in his locker, and we've seen it a couple of times now this season. But we get off to that start. We're playing, you know, well, as you've both touched on there. Brighton start the game well as well, you know, but we get off to the flyer in the sense that we're getting a goal. It's a great goal. It's well worked. We're settled in nicely, and on 19 minutes. It all changes, really. I know we go on to get a second after that, but to lose Naby Keita after 19 minutes was a bit of a blow, to say the least. I think Keita's been playing very well. I think he was relatively poor against Atletico, but other than that, I think he's been playing very well this season. I think he's becoming a much more important cog in that midfield, and to lose him is so frustrating, lads. Conroy, I'll come to you on this. What did you make of Keita's performance up till then, and the fact that he was going off?
Well, that's quite funny, actually, because before he goes down the first time, I think he gets back up again and he goes down. But it's just after he actually plays he's part of the kind of build-up that gets Bobby in for a horrendous finish. Let's just call it that, horrendous finish, 1-on-1. Try to be too cute. Thankfully get a second goal after that, and that's not really been brought up, but it's a great piece of play. He looked very confident. I thought the game suited him as well, and then to see him go down, it's like I'm not going to get into this, but through the start of the week, people like criticising him for potentially like faking an injury. It's like nonsense. If you actually have had any experience of Naby Keita's the turmoils in his career for inconsistency and stop and start, you know that wasn't the case. So yeah, I was a bit gutted for him, to be honest, Keith. I did think, I wasn't sure if Ox would have the same impact, and it proved for the full game he didn't. However, he actually starts really well when he comes on. But yeah, gutted for him. And have you heard any update? I've not checked today. I should have checked for update on Keita.
Won't hear anything until probably Monday or Tuesday by the
Monday,
time it's
Tuesday,
scanned.
Yeah.
So Klopp's press conference Monday, you might have some kind of a word as to what grade tear it is, or if it's a tear.
Yeah,
or what it is. We'll go. We'll know more then, I suppose.
Go for it. I wonder if it's related to a sense of just if you're feeling it before the match. So we'll see how it gets on. But for him personally as well, I agree, Keith. I feel like he's had a few performances where it's been hot and cold, but there's definitely been more. See him part of the system and more consistency. Even if you could just base that on stats for goal involvements, goals, assists, he's genuinely having a impact. He's having an impact on the team consistently, I'd say, this season. So I'm actually pretty gutted for him, so hopefully that's not too long.
Yeah, indeed, because I think he's a player that the majority of Liverpool fans want to see succeeding, and as I said, he wasn't great in the game against Atletico. He gets a beautiful goal in that, and he is adding that, he's more of a threat.
Definitely.
And when he goes off, I think there's a sense in the ground of it takes the wind out of the fans a bit, I think, because
he looked very confident as well in the ball. Yeah. He looked very confident,
and it's like, Jesus, not again, this fella's going off. But we go on, we carry on, and then we go 2-0 up shortly after that, Kev. And this time it's Sadio Mane again. Now, I think we're over the fact that Sadio Mane has lost his mojo a bit, because he might not be playing well, but he's still scoring some goals.
The little mini break that he had didn't do him any harm, did it? Because he was on it yesterday, and that's what you want in a rotation in the side, that you can take someone out for 7 days, 10 days, and when they come back in, they're refreshed and they go again. But I'm still to see a better cross of a ball this weekend than that cross from Chamberlain, because that was whipped in with pace. That gave the keeper no chance to come. Yeah. And that was him. You had defenders in front of him. You had a defender either side of Sadio. Sadio's not the tallest fella in the world to pick out. And that was inch perfect. It was a beautiful cross. And the header just buried. The keeper had no hope. He was stuck. He was rooted to the spot. And it was a lovely goal. And at 2-0, you thought, right, let's try and get control of it now and manage the game. And it was what was missing against Milan that we saw this, the rat was a rabbit in headlights. You're 2-0 up. There's 3, 4, and 5 here. This is too easy. And it was the same with Atletico. 2 up. Rabbit in the headlights. There's 3, 4, 5 in this game, and there wasn't. Yeah. Yesterday was the same. We were 2-0 up, but we were never secure in that 2-0, I thought. Brighton were always a threat going forward, especially with the runners they had off of Jordan. And we'll get onto that more in the second half. But you could see what was coming. You could see that if we didn't kill that game off with the third, then they were always likely to get one.
And just shortly after that, there is a third goal. It's ruled out correctly for
I knew it straight away. It clearly looked like his hands.
Beautiful pressing, though, wasn't it?
It was excellent pressing, and I think someone in commentary made a good point that boy, it's not just we saw against Manchester United last week. It was headless chicken pressing by the United players. It was one player running and nobody else doing it. Whereas it was Salah pressed on the right, and it distracts the keeper, and he doesn't notice that Mane is coming in on his blind side as well. And by the time he looks at him, he's on him like a rash. It was sort of triggered.
I watched Match of the Day this morning, and they had a camera angle. Whatever camera angle they had of it, you could see across to Robertson. You could see Salah on this side, but you could see Robertson on the far side. And when Mo came out to press, you could see Robertson was putting himself into a position, and so was Jones. Everyone, there was 5 or 6 players that
just
were
hunting in packs, to
just go. They'd seen it. The Brighton keeper had a bit of a mare in one instance against City, and they laid the traps all over the place for him. And the press deserved the goal. Yeah, it deserved to work because of. It was just perfect. It really was perfect. And Sadio's so flaming unlucky. If, a couple of inches either way and that stays off his foot and just goes straight in.
He knows straight away, though. He knows straight away. He's laughing. He knows straight away. So,
in this day and age, you're not getting away with that because it's going to go to VAR.
Listen, Keith, right, if you score a goal in a cup final and it goes in off your hand, there's no possible argument to say that goal can stand, and that's why that's the rule. And it's fair enough because it will go against you in a big match if they don't make it that clear cut. So it's fair. It's when he laughs when it gets made. I was like, he knew straight away. But it was to be fair to Sanchez, he got a cap recently with Spain, and he is good with his feet. He shows in the second half. He is a good keeper. So I think that actually shows you how good that press timing was, because it's not like he's an idiotic keeper. He's obviously quite competent. So I think that shows you how good the press was.
It does, and I think it also shows you that he is actually a decent keeper, Sanchez, because he just brushes it off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Other keepers would have panicked. The other thing I noticed with Brighton didn't try to play it out from the back from their own goal kicks. They went long, and they weren't exactly going long to anyone, to their normal.
Yeah, Trossard up front, so
to Dan Burn. They were going long and wide to take, and his kicking was good enough to take it. In the most part, they always went to Trent's side, but in the most part, they kept it away from Konate. They were always going for Cucurella and whoever was the midfielder going on that side. And more often than not, he did it, and he did it well. But it was just another thing that Brighton do that a lot of sides, like Manchester United last week, try to play out from the back. And some sides don't learn. Brighton do. And Potter learned. You don't do that against certain sides, and we're one of those sides you don't do it against. But his kicking was very, very good all through the game, to be fair.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like we were putting the pressure on. We weren't getting rid of Brighton. They still were having the chances. But, when that goal is going in, you're thinking, right, lads, we have to put the foot on the neck here, and we have to really try and force this home and get the goals. Because you could see they were all, they didn't look like falling apart. They didn't look like crumbling. They're 2-0 down at Anfield, Brighton, and they're not, they're not falling apart here. They're still, their players in midfield were still getting on the ball. Yves Bissouma, Enoch Mwape, like they were still getting in and doing damage to us. And you're right, you touched on a player there, Cucurella. Cucurella has been an excellent addition for them. And to have that outlet on the left-hand side, they always knew, look, Trent is Trent. He's excellent going forward. I think he's a bit underrated on his defensive side. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. It's just that he's so good doing the other things.
Yeah.
That I think people look. But what he does do is he does give opportunities. He does get targeted, and they do have a genuine good player on Cucurella on that left-hand side. And they start getting back into the game. They start getting on the ball and moving it about. And they're walking Alisson. Alisson's he's not having a quiet day by any chance or by any stretch of the imagination. Like he's having to do.
They were continuously getting bodies forward, Keith, even before we scored the Solly March chance, but even half chances like Cucurella, I think because Trossard drops deep with the false nine, that was causing us all sorts of problems because then he was going out wide to the left. There was loads of space. There's a few times Cucurella's just in our box, like with loads of space. So it was like, I thought it was continuously, they were brave and it was absolutely just wanted to add that as well, Keith. I thought like they were brave to put bodies forward. They felt that was the best way to try and defend against us, if you know what I mean. To just make it like a tennis match, as Kev said.
Well, that's it. Owen makes a good point there that Trent was a bit lost with their system, and I think that's very fair. I think it's and that's not to dig out Trent because I think we all find that the Naby substitution does have an impact as well on that. Because the personnel in the midfield, it's changing, and we just couldn't get on the ball. And as I said, their midfield was growing into it. Basuma was very good, and Mwepu scores. Now, Mwepu scores. What is that on? What minute was it that he gets that goal?
What, 36, 37, something like that?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
41. So it's just close to half time. What do you make of the goal? Conroy, will come to you first.
This might surprise people, right? But I've watched it loads of times. I think he 100% means that. Like, I'm telling you right now, people saying it's a cross. If you've ever played out in white or you ever crossed the ball in, like that technique, who's he trying to cross to? He's not going to, unless for some reason his technique, he hits it out before it comes in. But you would not hit a cross that hard. Like, and to me, I get how people want to say it's a fluke, but I think he means it. He's looking up, and you might disagree, fair enough, but I think it's too quick to people say that's a fluke. I think he actually 100% means it.
His body shape tells you he means it.
Yeah.
If his body is more open, he's crossing it. It wasn't. His body shape.
And it goes out that way, so it's not like it's like just in a kind of trajectory. I think he means it. His
body shape was closed, and it was a shot to nothing because you ask him to do that 50 times and he won't do it because Alisson was in the right position. He was spot on in his right position because he was there for the cross. And that's where a keeper should be. Now, Alisson's 6'3", and that creeped under the crossbar. It was very like Havertz at the start of the season, that header, glancing header from the near post. Yeah. Again, do it 50 times, and Chelsea haven't scored a goal anywhere near like it since. They've had plenty of corners and plenty of chances. Yeah. So it's one of those goals that you just put your hands up and you call him every name under the sun, and you break the remote and you kick the dog and you throw the cat out the window and say, fuck it. Shit, move on. It's just one of those things. It really is.
I think it was a fluke. I think it was a fluke. A lot in the chat are sort of split on it and think he meant it. I think he was crossing it. Genuinely.
Who's he crossing it to? 4 foot nothing Trossard.
The type of player that he is, I don't think he is.
That's not how you would not cross a ball like that. There's no way you would try to put that much pace in a cross for that body shape. But that's just me. Like, I just think it's too easy when it's not a big name to say it's a fluke. That's always the case.
And that's not to run him down. I actually think he's an excellent player. I've seen him for Salzburg.
No, I don't mean you, Keith. I just mean I've seen all the
my argument on this, and why I think personally it was maybe not that it was a fluke, but that I think it was just. He got the ball and he's just putting it into an area to cause a bit of trouble in there, because the type of player that he is, Mwepu, that I've seen, I haven't seen loads of him. Right? I've seen bits of him at Salzburg. He's not a defensive midfielder, but he's certainly not an attacking midfielder, and he's not a wide midfielder who's sort of an expert at crossing. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a player that gets the ball. I think he's putting it in there, and I think he just overhits it. I don't think he can see a shot. While he might not be able to see a cross,
No.
I don't think he's looking at that thinking there's a shot on here. I don't think Alisson's far enough out to think I'm going to get this over him. So I think it was just one of them. And look, you take it every day of the week. We've scored goals that have been sort of not flukes, but that have been, did he mean it, did he not? And at the end of the day, once it goes in, you don't really care. Like, he doesn't give a shit if he meant it or he didn't.
No.
At the end of the day, he's got a great goal from it.
Yeah. Did you see his tweet that he put out today?
No, what did he say?
Was it, I'm just a kid from Zambia, living my dream. I dreamed of scoring a goal at Anfield in my lifetime, and I've achieved my dream. Shame we couldn't get the win. And you know what?
That tells you a lot about him and Brighton.
It does.
Their mentality.
And to be fair, he's not the first person to go to Salzburg route.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'll be the last. What they're doing over there is...
You've got Wang, who's playing for Wolves as well. Now I know he's at Leipzig in between. He's scoring as well. So there's quite a few examples of that.
There's quite a few. And he played well yesterday. He really did. He looks like he's got a proper football brain. You know, that he knows when to go, when to stay. He knows when to pick a pass. He knows where to be, which is the most important thing. You know, he knows the right positions to be on the pitch at any one time. 18 million, I think they paid for him. So he wasn't cheap by any standards, but he's worth every penny of it.
Yeah. Do you find anything from our point of view there? The only reason I've not mentioned that is, to me, there's some goals that you just accept. And for me, that's one of them for me anyway.
You want someone from that area of the pitch. If you're going to cross it, you'll back your keeper every day of the week to come and collect that, or your centre back to head it away. And if someone's going to have a shot from there, you back your keeper all day long, every day of the week. It's just one of those freak goals. You know? I don't think you can overanalyze it or over-egg it. I think it is what it is.
Fair play to him. I mean, he hits one off the bar against Alisson at Anfield. Fair play to the lad, whether he meant it or not. And it was great to hear we tweeted there, because he is a good player, and he's a player that I think, I was surprised he went to Brighton, but when you look at him, he's a player that will fit what they're doing. And what I was sort of thinking with sort of how he would settle in there, they're a team that play, and I'm gonna want to come on to their formation. Like one of you, I think it was Kev, I think you might have said, you know, they're not rigid, and Potter isn't rigid in how he plays, and he'll change his shape and his formation and the way he'll play in game to game. They played Leandro Trossard as a false 9, and he was causing us problems as the game was going on. And I think without Fabinho in there, or a more natural defensive midfielder to snuff that out, I think Potter knew, I can do damage in here if we can get Van Dijk or Konate coming out of their comfort zone, because they want players on, like against Manchester United, Kev. They knew Ronaldo is going to be up there. He's not going to be dragging us left, right, and centre, and he's going to look for high balls, and they know what they're getting. Yeah. Yesterday they didn't.
No, they set up it's like a 3-4-2-1, you know, and one was Trossard, who was dropping back, but you had 2 10s who were making runs in behind from deep. And with Cucurella on one side, and what I think was Solly March on the other.
It's Solly March, I think it was March,
You know, they're adaptable, and they can change it to a 5, they can change it to a 4 if need be, with Cucurella dropping in at left back.
Yeah, and Veltman can go to right back as well. He can play centre back, right back. Yeah,
Veltman, they paid, I think, 850 grand for Ajax bargain, and he's just a versatile defender. No wonder they didn't have a problem selling Ben White for 50 million, because
they've got lots of them, Kev. If you look at the squad, they're continuously getting them.
And the way they attack, the way they played us was out. They played the game wide and from outside to win, and they tried to create overloads on our fullbacks either side with runners from midfield going in beyond, and it's a good way to play us. They're not the first side to do that to us. You know, Fabinho, you miss him, but I think you miss Jordan Henderson, who would normally be next to him. that second defensive head, where Chamberlain and Jones' game is their whole game is literally getting the ball and running with it, bringing it 10, 15 yards, maybe take someone on, go past them 10, 15, 20 yards, and then lay it off. Whereas Fabinho and Henderson is give it, quick pass and move, get the ball into Bobby, out to Mo, back in around in little triangles, and keep everyone moving. Ox and Jones like to be on the ball. And they like to be on the ball a little bit too much, and they give opposition players who are good on a press, a chance to get in at them. They won't get in there all the time, but if they can win the ball on the halfway line, one pass and you're in against two centre backs with runners going towards your goal. So it's a big problem, and the problem was exacerbated by the substitution by Naby. It wasn't his fault. Look, hamstrings go; it's part of the game. But it wasn't helped by the personnel more than
the player coming on more so than
it was. If it was a case that if it was a Milner coming on or a Thiago or someone with a bit more nous, a bit more nous of what they can and can't do in the areas where they can and can't do it. You could see why Klopp was frustrated more at the end of the game, because it wasn't a shock. As the game went on into halftime, you got to look at who was on the bench and what could Klopp have done at halftime to adjust things. Maybe change shape, which he did later in the second half. But there wasn't an awful lot more he could have done to change from the bench. Apart from going for a back three, which he's just not confident. The only thing I thought he could have done, he could have brought Joe Gomez on at right back and moved Trent into midfield.
Yeah.
That was a left field option to add a bit of steel and a bit of stability into midfield. But it would have been a real big risk, especially at the time you're 2-1 up still.
Or just taking Trent off full stop and just put Gomez on at the right side just because, I get what you're saying, okay, because it wasn't just Trent. I actually think they got in 3 times. They got on both channels, but they got down his side like 3 times, I think, before the actual goal comes from that as well. So it's like, it's not just Trent, you kind of, as you said, another midfielder to shoot it up. But I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you're going to back yourselves to play that game and get enough goals. But that's twice we've tried to do that against Brentford and Brighton, and we've not been able to. We've played a tennis match and it's been juice. Not one. Yeah. So
indeed. Ramez Khalil throws in a super chat. We're missing a midfield controller without Fab and Thiago, so we can't control games, and the gap between the midfield and defence is becoming a recurring problem. And thanks very much for the super chat, Ramez. And he's right. It is becoming an issue, and teams are going to target that. And I'm not one for throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're on the back of a good run. We done well. Done super against Man U last week at Old Trafford, and today we got brought back down to earth a bit with a sloppy performance all around. But the game goes on, and the midfield, I thought Brighton were getting into it, but then there's a substitution around the hour mark, and Yves Bissouma comes off. And Alexis McAllister comes on.
Gary Mack comes on.
Alexis McAllister, the
I called him Alistair McAllister the other week. I knew I got mixed up, and I know it was Alexis, but I said Alistair. So
he's Argentinian. He has 2 brothers, Kevin and what's the other one's name? Francis. Kevin McAllister, Francis McAllister, and
Home Alone.
Yeah.
Kevin McAllister. Brilliant.
Oh, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of Alexis McAllister.
Didn't he come in as a striker? Wasn't he originally a striker or a 10?
We need to see if he's got some Scottish relatives. See if you can get him in the Scotland national team. See if you can get him in there.
Get him in, him and the other 2. Get the 3 brothers in. But I thought, Bissouma was good for them. I thought McAllister came in and caused all sorts of problems for us in that midfield, because his passing, maybe a bit more forward thinking, and it just had us on toast then from there. And we get the goal comes 5 minutes after that. And did they have one? They have one disallowed before that as well, did they? Oh, after was it?
It was after, yeah.
So Trossard comes in
because Mo had one disallowed for offside, and it was just a split second between Mane, because he timed the run.
Yeah.
And he tried to bend it, and it was just like, it was a stride. That's all it was. It was just a stride. If Mo had played it a stride earlier, or Sadio had played it a stride earlier, he was in it. And he took it around the keeper beautifully and slotted it. It was a lovely goal.
Yeah.
But for their goal, Robbo's at fault.
But
100%.
just before that as well, I think what's the midfielder who scores the first goal? And how do you pronounce his name, Keith? Yeah, but he actually gets a chance that maybe is potentially offside, but the flag stayed down. He comes in from the left. I think that's before they make it 2-2, Kev. It's another good save. Just a wee caveat. Alisson, by the way, should be getting a 9 out of 10. I mean, great save from Solly March. That's a stupendous save. The save from Basuma, I think, is brilliant. He tips onto the post. And then that's obviously coming out quick. But again, it's not definitely offside. That was kind of touch and go. And again, he pulls off big save continuously. I just think he's
and the one from Lallana as well, but his feet.
Lallana as well, just like keeping a hold of that feet and then keeping it like not springing back out. I just wanted to shout out Alisson. I feel like he does make some stuff look simple, but even like coming out and his timing when to come out to put that the player under pressure with the 1-on-1. I think he's an expert at that now, and I just think because he's maybe not as intimidating as a Schmeichel, we don't really go on. I know we do, but in general, I just think he's actually brilliant at 1-on-1 saves. So just a shout out to Alisson.
Yeah, very good.
But it makes the forward or the opposition players have to work even harder for their goals, and
it makes them second guess themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
And you can see it now. You can see it now. You can see it now consistently. That I'd say maybe that's 6 times, probably more this season. Players been 1-on-1, and I back Alisson to save it. It's like it's 50-50 now, where it should be like 90-10 to the striker, but he's definitely working.
It's amazing, like your view of the goal. The goal doesn't change size and the goal doesn't move. But when you have a big, imposing goalkeeper coming out, and not all keepers that are big are imposing, and you know, look at Simon Mignolet running out, and I think Simon Mignolet was bigger than Alisson. But when he ran out, he was like he shrunk.
He's imposing Alisson,
and Alisson is the opposite. And that's not to dig out Mignolet. It's just
Ali looks like a light heavyweight when he's coming out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mignolet come out and he looks like a welterweight who's had a bath.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's true. But we had, Manchester United had
the side of him.
Yeah, you had this for years with Schmeichel, with not so much Van der Sar, but the Gea when he forced.
It was the gap in between. You had Taibi, you had Fabian Barthez. Then they finally sorted it. Then they finally fixed it, bastards.
But they got imposing keepers again, and you knew we'd be going through, and you knew the goal was shrinking the closer they were getting to it because the keeper was just making it big. And Alisson does that, and it's brilliant. He can't really do anything on the Trossard goal. I think Robbo doesn't cover himself in glory. I don't think Virgil covers himself in glory.
No, I think Robbo drops and plays him onside. If he holds the line, he might catch him off. But I don't know what is going through his head to drop there. He just made it so easy.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if he's trying. Look to me, he's maybe trying to second guess it, Kev, and then before he do that, it's already he thinks maybe the pass is going there straight away. So I can understand that he shouldn't do it, but he's maybe thinking to catch it out because he does that notoriously. He's done that maybe going across the goal to stop it, but as soon as the ball comes into Lallana, he's snookered. I was going to swear there, but he's snookered. And actually, the time I had to watch it a few times to see that because there is a few faults. Robbo's the blame there, but again, they got on that side numerous times in that channel, and we didn't sort it out. But as I say, that is I wouldn't really see when he gets in that position. It's easy that it looks like he's just sticking a foot out, but it's very hard there. You can't slide in. If you dive in, he gets a penalty. It's like it's the movement. It just as soon as he does that, game over. This is elite footballers. You're not going to miss when you give them that chance.
I just want to take up what Justin is saying, or Justin said earlier on in the chat that Klopp doesn't change shape. It was on about 70 minutes. Klopp did change shape. We went to a 4-2-3-1, and he put Sadio out on the right. And I think it's plainly obvious the reason why he waited for the changes. Brighton were well on top for a good 15-minute spell, and Jota might offer you a threat going forwards, but Bobby's better at tracking and coming back, and gives you that. He gives more in that 10 role than what Jota does. By the time he makes the change, it's shit, you're at shit or burst stage.
Yeah.
It was 2-2, and it was, look, whether he knew results were going against him or not, I don't know. But Klopp has 2 or 3 go-tos in a game. He'll start off with his 4-3-3. It plays out different ways. He'll go 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-1-1 if he's trying to close the game out. And very, very, very rarely will he go at a back five. You know, that might be last couple of minutes in a game.
Yeah, the Matip special, the Gomez special for 3 minutes.
For a few minutes at the end to shut up shop. Yeah. But it wasn't mentioned in commentary, but when Sadio went out on the right, it went quiet. It was almost like he was out of the game there. And it's the risk you take, that you want to put Mo up front to give him the best chance of getting in on a counter, but you're also hurting yourself in other ways. You know, and at the same time, we still weren't able to shut off the flow because Curtis isn't that double pivot 6. No matter, he's just not experienced enough in that role yet. You know, maybe later on in his career he'll have a bit more nous about game situations, but you know, it just didn't suit yesterday.
It's very true, but like Brighton get the second goal and they then make a change. They bring in Tariq Lamptey straight after that, and it's just a sign that they felt that the game was in it for them. They were putting the foot on their throat. They were putting the squeeze on us. I thought it was a good substitution on the back of the McAllister substitution. I think Potter was getting, you know, he was getting it right, and he could sniff blood, and he knew that there was a win in it for them, and he went for it. And also, as the game was going on, they were slowing everything down. They were, you know, taking every second out of it. And it's the easiest way to just frustrate a crowd and a team is just to do that. And I thought Potter had his team doing it brilliantly. And we just could not live with them. You know, the highs of the last week, as that second half was going on, lads, I didn't see a goal coming. Do you know what I mean? No. I thought it was looking desperate.
Can I add, Keith, right now? I'm not for 1 second, because I know people are going to say, Conroy being positive, this is shocking, but I'm telling you right now, I'm laying this on the line first, right? If you told me this at the start of the season, I'm going to bite your hand off. 3 points off top of the Champions League, going into the game at Anfield against Atletico, if a win or a point, Kev, you know exactly, we're through. Yeah. Beating Man United 5-0. It can't go smoothly all the time. If it did, we wouldn't know how to be supporters, because all would just be to expect to win, and that's not how football works. Because like City will smash Brighton, but then City lost to Palace. We beat Palace 3-0. Do you know what I mean? Football's always different. Yeah. Every game's different. So for me, we need to look at the positives. I know, Kev, the run we've been on is ridiculous. Yeah. So I think you need to remember we're supporters at the end of the day, and it's a case of we're in a great position. We'll look at this, we'll learn from it, and there will be changes. But just to add to that, I do think eventually, this is why we do need to look at, I'm not even going to go on the centre mid thing we need right now, because I do think we're depleted a bit there. We'll get through it. But this is the reason why, if we're not going to use Divock Origi, sell him. I know you might want to leave, but you need to get a number 9 in. I don't care what you say. You can't win every game playing the way you want to play. You need to rescue games. And that's the one thing we're not good at for, like, not that we can't rescue games in time, but just cutting out the tactics. We have got literally one of the best, well, I'd say both, but Robbo's not in great form, but Trent's crossing's unbelievable, and Robbo's can be, and you've got Shimikas there as well, but we don't utilise a proper number 9, and the one we've got, we don't bring him on. So that's the one thing that frustrates me with this team, is there's a stubbornness to say, that game was gone, the tactics we put in place did not win the game, like our gameplay, our philosophy did not win that game, but that's how the top teams continuously manage to rescue those games and stay in a title race, is winning ugly, and I just think we're cutting our hand off a little bit by not utilising our number 9 to save games. Like Lukaku against Zenit is the prime example of what that offers Chelsea. Chelsea were bang average in that game, but they get the win because Lukaku's there and it's just a crossing or whatever it is, a ball in the box. And that's the one thing, guys, I get a little bit frustrated with Liverpool is we don't even use Origi. I'm not Origi's biggest fan, but if you've got him there, you're never going to break them down, because it's not been working all day. Salah's the best player in the world right now, and even it wasn't working. It was okay, but it wasn't flowing correctly. That's why you need to utilise the strengths we've got. We've got 2 really good fullbacks. I don't know why that's the one thing that annoys me with Liverpool.
If you'd have done that yesterday, there's every chance we'd have lost. And the reason being is Dunk and Duffy, that's what they want.
But what was the game plan then, Kev? So see when you put Sadio Mane wide, what did we create?
It was that you could see
that. But that wasn't working though. But that wasn't working.
You go route one against Duffy and Dunk.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying route. I'm not saying route one. I'm saying crosses in the box. We played the ball wide.
They prefer that.
They would use that all day. That's all they want.
I get that, but the way teams like United for years had stayed is because they penned teams in. Now Liverpool did not pen Brighton in. That wasn't like Brighton had to earn that point. Now you say they'd win that, but see if you've got centre backs and you're putting a ball in a box, they head it away, but it pens them in. It puts pressure and momentum on them.
You pin them in from midfield, not from a striker.
But that you still need presence in the box. But it's not a coincidence that literally every other team in the Premier League is a striker and they've rescued games. Like it's not rocket science. It isn't rocket science.
We're going into January, and we after selling Shaqiri, we have one space in the squad available for a non-homegrown player.
No, I understand that, Kev. I'm just saying in the future.
I know, but that's without selling anyone. There is space available to bring someone in without having to sell anyone that we can register in January, whether that's a striker or somewhere else. We have that one option. And I hope, for the love of God, that they do use it. And I agree with you. I would love to see a target man type centre forward.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that Andy Carroll, Kev. I just mean it's just we need something else there, just the presence. Because what I mean is sorry, you are right, and I understand it's like playing that way. But there's just certain games, right, where I feel like we're not at it, and we're never going to win that way. And you just need that option. And I've just seen so many teams rescue games recently with having that number 9, and I think when you've got fullbacks that we've got, and I get it. I just think the last 10 minutes you throw the kitchen sink, and we don't do that. That's the only thing.
We've scored 29, conceded 8, and we're unbeaten. It's hard to argue with the way they're doing it. I get what you're saying, but then you've got to turn around. Like I've seen names like Jonathan David and Vlahovic in the chat. I like David, and I've liked him for a couple of years. I think he's a really good prospect. But are you going to convince someone of his ilk or more or worse, Vlahovic, to come to a club that's firing on all cylinders, not without a guarantee of some form of minutes?
No, that's a fair point,
I don't believe that you get that caliber of player when they look at what our 5th choice striker gets game time wise. You're never dropping Mo. Bobby offers so much that's different. Sadio is on fire. And then you've got Jota before you even look at the 5th.
But I think that's a cop out sometimes with stuff. But we're not. I'm not saying use cop out. But I'm saying it's like to use the excuse that you never get. Because I think if you've got a different player, a different option, you will play games. I think Origi doesn't play because he just doesn't suit it. He doesn't work hard enough. He doesn't press hard enough. But what I'm saying is we're getting a bit wide here, from a point. No. What I was meaning is I'm not saying we need this in January. I've accepted it, but that's a frustration of mine. What I am saying is though, if that's not working, maybe use Origi. Because I just don't see the point in having him, and maybe that is because of contracts. And you're quite right.
No, I get it.
It's frustrating though because he brought Jota on, and I just felt like. It just didn't work. It didn't work when we try to change it up. So you're probably right that you maybe need to stick to the philosophy, but I just feel like there's games that you just have to accept that we've got this wrong and we need to rescue something. And maybe yesterday's a bad example because Brighton, to be fair, were good. There has been games in the past where teams have really caused us trouble by playing a low block, and we've just never been able to capitalise on it. And that's the thing that frustrates me.
It's hard for Liverpool to beat a low block because we play our system, we have our forwards, and to bring in a player, theoretically Origi should be 8 because he's 6'3", I think, 6'2", 6'3".
6'2".
He's a big lad. He's quick. He's physically tall and muscular. He's not scrawny, you know what I mean? He should be able to impose himself, and he doesn't. So what's the point in having him there? I agree with Kevin to the extent, it's hard to bring in somebody to go in and be the new Divock and to keep them hungry because they're not always going to get fed. And that's the problem with that. And it's...
Can I just add to that? Okay, sorry guys, I meant to clear. I didn't mean like a Vlahovic. I'm not meaning to that. So when I meant I'm meaning like a like a Giroud was available or like someone of a lower. I'm not saying that standard. So what I meant when I said that, Kev, is not yourself. I meant that there's options out there that are attainable. That's always meaning that we could utilise, because sometimes I do think you're going to get matched in games and not being able to break them down. So that's all I was saying, and it is frustrating when it's like I don't know. I'm just going on about this because I feel like we've got a great squad and we can just little tweaks can make us brilliant. But as I said earlier, this is not about the season because I think we've been superb. This is just something I think going forward is an area of improvement. That's all.
Yeah. Well, Grizz can agrees with you, Conroy. So I think we can all say you're on the losing side of this battle. Good to have Grizz in the chat. Look, I think to have that plan B, again, not looking to overreact to a draw. Whatever way we look at this, lads, we're 2-0 up at home against the side that I think are a good team. I think they're, having a good season. It's never a given to go into games and expect to win. But when you put yourself into that position and you throw it away.
From 2-0 up, it's definitely points dropped. There's no arguing in that. It's I just want to put something, ask the people who are in the chat, what do they think? I said that you guys can, fire in positions, names, whatever. We have space in January for one addition. Now, bear in mind that Klopp, look at what he's done with Konate. Very, very, very rarely do you get Klopp using a new signing straight away. All right? Yeah. But as I was watching Grizz last night, and Grizz is quite right in what he was saying, that there's a lot of players in our midfield that are prone to injuries, even soft muscle injuries, couple of weeks here, couple of weeks there. We're suffering at the minute. Would you bring in a midfielder or a forward in January? Not a case of will they, because I think they will. Would you? Which one? Because we have space at the minute for one to come in January. So would you go for a midfielder or would you go for a striker or a wide forward, or what would you guys in the chat like to see?
Well, Conroy, what do you think about that?
I would go for a centre mid now just because the way it's going. And I say we're going to keep Origi for at least the next year. We know that. So I think the striker debate is for the summer. Or forward, what you want to say. I think it has to be a centre mid now, just because they're falling like flies at times. So I feel like, it's not an overreaction, because I do think there's a lot of extremism. It's like either, we're not doing this, and it's to get a bit, we're doing really well this season. But I just think, Kev, you mentioned before Christmas time, lots of games back to back as well. I think a centre mid is something that we will have to look at. Is there any you off the top of your head? What
Kieran B is saying there? Sell Ox, fine. You sell Ox, that means you have to bring in an English player. For anyone who says or goes online or puts in the chat, sell Ox, fine. You have to bring in an English homegrown player.
Do you know the one I would suggest,
really
Kev?
Limits what you're allowed to do.
Yeah, a good point, Kev. The one I would suggest, but I'm not going to suggest it now because of the personal and legal issues that will be happening, and I'm not going to comment too much because we don't know. But I think there's a reason Bissouma, no one's took a chance on him. Like, there is absolutely a reason, because when it comes to his ability, he's a brilliant player. It's not even, I'm not even talking about what's happened recently. I think just personally, it's strange in the start of the summer as well.
I was amazed Arsenal didn't go for him.
Yeah.
I thought with the relationship that Arsenal built with the Ben White signing, I honestly couldn't believe that Arsenal didn't go for him.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
I can understand why we didn't at the time. Purely and simply because, look, we've got 8 centre mids for 3 spots. We couldn't at the start of the season foresee that Harvey Elliott was going to have the start of the season that he was going to have. He was outstanding until his horrific injury. Then you're into Fabinho misses a couple of weeks here and there. Jordan Henderson misses time here and there. Everyone does. Everyone in our midfield has missed time, whether it's a couple of weeks, a month, 6 weeks, whatever, here and there. And it brings its own kind of issues. And the type of midfielder I think that we need, I think Laura put a shout in there for Brozovic.
Yeah.
That kind of player. I think Cantwell, Kevin, is a shout. But Cantwell is very Jones.
I'm back.
You know, he's one who carries the ball. I think we need two defensive heads with one who's an attacking creative player. Yeah. That's the perfect balance for us.
Brozovic is a great shout because it's similar to the Kovacic signing at Chelsea. Yeah. I think Basuma, my take on this, and I said it all along, is I think Basuma is very much not a defensive midfielder. I don't know if he could flourish, let's say, alongside Fabinho. I think he's nearly one or the other there, and that's not a dig at him. I think he's a great player. No. I don't know if it suits our system as the 8. Maybe I don't know if it's going to work out.
Yeah. What about Casey, Keith? What about Casey?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Kessie either. I think Kessie is a good player.
He's free in the summer. That's the reason I'm saying he's free in the summer.
But he's also off to AFCON.
Yeah,
good point as well.
You know, what's the point in signing him if you losing. Can, when it's not February, it's, and I do like him. I think he's a really good.
Ivory Coast international, isn't he? So he's always going to be sort of in the mix for the AFCON, whereas Basuma,
and he plays on the left of a 3 as well. He's a really athletic. I think he could do with. I think he carries a bit of condition. It's a polite way of saying he's a bit portly.
Yeah.
I think he likes the Italian pasta a bit much.
The late night pasta.
That's a good shout. Chouameni, he's
a great shout.
He's having a season and a half in France at the minute.
Yeah.
Fofana is another one in France, central mid. He got player of the month last month. There's some decent box-to-box mids out there. Gravenberch is one that because of Raiola, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Don't even talk about it if Raiola's involved.
And look, if anyone wants to know why, as much as I think Gravenberch is a hell of a talent, you go and dig out the interview with Chiellini last week when he's talking about a Raiola player, and he was hoping that De Ligt would be allowed to stay at Juventus long enough to see him flourish, that Raiola might let him stay. I'm sorry. There is absolutely no way in hell I would ever want Liverpool to be in a situation where an agent dictates when we can sell or what we can do with any player. And I don't give two shits who that player is.
Look at Paul Pogba at United. They're set to lose him for free for the second time after paying 90 million to bring him back.
And Dicko said Bellingham, and I'd sell your mother to get you Bellingham in and I'd throw in mine and Keith's. Conroy's, I'd sell
everybody.
Them
yeah.
Can I just ask you one? Sorry, I want to ask Keith this. I saw stuff today because obviously Declan Rice scored. Just a quick one. We're talking about centre mids we could possibly get. I mean, surely Liverpool are not even going to consider this for the money they're talking. That's just be not worth or feasible. Not even. He's good, but he's never worth that in a month of Sundays ever in a million years.
Yeah.
No. I think
he's a good player.
Overrated. Yeah,
I think he's good. He's good, and he's in a system. I mean, West Ham at the minute are purring. You know what I mean? They're effective, and they're good at what they do. And in a 4-4-2 with one sit in and one go in, he's fine. I think he's absolutely fine in a double pivot. He's a good, solid centre mid who's got a decent pass on him. He's all right. But he's not 100 million, all right.
Yeah,
he's very
a decent pass. I was expecting Pearl level of passing if it's 100 million. Do you know what I mean? I'm expecting Pogba level.
Tonali is the one I thought a couple of years ago when he moved to Milan. I thought he's going to be the one to watch in a couple of years. He hasn't kicked on as much.
He's still young, isn't he, Kev?
Yeah, he's still young. He's only about 21, 22, something like that. But he hasn't really kicked on. I think Declan Rice is a good player, but look, I'd be with Keith.
for the money, even the likes of
between
Calvin
himself and
Phillips.
Grealish, I don't know which one hurt me more.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know which one
bad
I'd think
blood
about
there.
more.
Bad blood all the way there.
Yeah.
But in fairness, I think Royce hurt more as well, just to clear
Mhm.
that one up. I think, you know, he
Yeah, I think so
played
too.
for us and then fucks off. But I think with Declan Rice, I can't get behind him at all. I think he's a good player. I think he's as Kev said there, he's playing in a good team at the moment. Whether you like David Moyes or you like West Ham, they're playing well and he suits what they do. I think if you were to bring in Declan Rice, and I think Calvin Phillips is getting a few mentions as well. I think there's the
like Calvin,
English tax that goes on to players that means they have to, you know, Man City can put 100 million down on Jack Grealish. And if he doesn't work out, it ultimately doesn't affect them. If Liverpool were laying out 100 million for a player like Declan Rice, 80 million or whatever, and 60 million for the Calvin Phillips, I think the risk is
have to
too
work with
high
it.
for the reward. And I don't think they have the capabilities to justify the player that you need or you'd want to be. I think Jude Bellingham
Absolutely.
is the
Maybe
other end of
does.
the scale there. I
Yeah.
think Jude Bellingham is worth that risk because I think his game has more about it than the other two. I think the other two are English internationals. We've seen it down the years constantly. England internationals come at a premium, and it's a premium that very rarely works out.
But with his
what I mean?
age as well, Bellingham, it's kind. You can maybe argue it's worth it, like because you're getting maybe 10 years longer, maybe potentially more than that out of him.
15.
And it's like
Yeah.
that financially is a financial decision. You could that would make sense. But I absolutely agree because Billy Gilmore done both of them at Wembley. So Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice, if you're saying worth 100 million, a guy who's on the bench for Norwich today, right? They couldn't get near him. So that's all I'm saying before we start to get too overreactionary with Declan Rice.
I think Gav said it on a pod there going back a while, and he was smack on. Rice is good, Calvin is better, but Jude is better than the two of them together.
Yeah.
You know, and Jude Bellingham is scary. The fact that at 18 years of age, he's ripping it up. And he's not just doing it in the Bundesliga, which is, in fairness to the Bundesliga, is a very open and attacking. It's an open attacking league that gives you space on the ball. And you can look good in that league without being an exceptional player. He's doing it in the Champions League against all types of opposition. And it's only a matter of time before someone bites the bullet on him.
Yeah.
And I hope to God it's us.
Yeah, I hope
really,
it's us as well.
do.
I
hope
think it's got Manchester United all over it.
I hope not, because I don't want to end up disliking the kid.
Yeah.
You know,
and I think that it's funny. Look, I'm not trying to, you know, run down their business and their business, but we all know, I think it's very well documented now that Liverpool don't offer the top wages, and it's all incentivized. And if you perform well and you win, you get your rewards for that. And I think if you can get Jude Bellingham on a contract like that, I think if we'd got Jadon Sancho, for example, and that's the comparison I'm going to make, is Jadon Sancho was doing everything Jude Bellingham was doing at Dortmund. He goes in there as an unknown teenager from England and tears it up Bundesliga, Champions League. He goes to Manchester United, he's on 350,000 a week. Where is the hunger? Do you know what I mean? Where is it? He's won. He's already won.
A bit like a De Jong at Barca, 400 grand a week he's on. It's like De Jong. I watched him. I thought it was unbelievable for Ajax in the Champions League run, and it's just like he might hit there, but you're absolutely right. That kind of the hunger. Does it go when you're getting that a week at the age of what age is De Jong now?
I'd love to find out.
I know. We're talking this platonically as football, not about like the financial reward. But you can understand that completely. But Conor Gallagher by Thomas C, that's a really good shout as well. But he's obviously Chelsea are just bringing talent from out their ears at the moment.
And they do it brilliantly. You know, they get these guys, they go out. When it comes to playing Crystal Palace, Conor Gallagher isn't going to be playing for them. Do you know what I mean? Because he's going to be playing his parent club, so Chelsea will steamroll them. You know, and it works out. They put their players out on loan. Their players excel.
One player at Chelsea that I honestly expected to either have broken into their first team by now or have moved is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. A couple of years ago, I really thought he looked the business. He's got that. He's got the size. He's got the skill on the ball. He's one that's been really unlucky with injuries. But there's a reel of those Chelsea players who went out on loan, and Chelsea, to their credit, have become very, very efficient at selling them for good money and reinvesting that in their first team squad and in bringing the next lot through. It's something that Liverpool have to get better at.
Yeah.
You know, in fairness,
If you
I don't think we sent enough players.
Well, they sold your man Mark Guehi, didn't they, to Palace for about 26 million?
Yeah, we don't
from
send
their under
enough,
23s.
yeah, we don't send enough players out on loan with the mindset that they're not coming back into our first team. That we're sending them on loan to build their profile to be sold, and it's something that hopefully over the next 4 or 5 years, I hope we see to improved.
They have got that in place, to be fair. Like people used to joke all the time about the amount of players had out on loan, but you can tell now that it's proven dividends as well. Because I'm not just because it's the Scottish national team link, but Gilmore, he's not playing there now, but Gilmore looks like he will replace either a Kovacic or Jorginho or that type of style, at least sit on the bench for Chelsea in the next couple of years. And I could see Gallagher breaking into our team because he's a bit different from what midfielders they've got. He's a bit more box to box, can get in their box as well, kind of late runs, similar probably to, he's also not in the same calibre, but do you know, like if you talk about Lampard in the sense of late runs, Gallagher's quite good at that as well. He scored quite a few goals that season, so I fully expect both of them to go back to Chelsea as well. And I mean, if they're starting and making Premier League proven, they're probably going to save themselves about 100 million on 2 centre mids as well. So you're right. We need to get better at that. 100%, Kev.
I think we need to treat him more ruthlessly, that way. Like Chelsea aren't sending Conor Gallagher out there with the idea that he's coming back into their first team, and if he does, it's because he's just excelled. They send their players out there and they're putting big prices on them all. Billy Gilmore as well. Billy Gilmore excel. If we get 40 million for Billy Gilmore from someone, he's gone. He's out the door. Whereas I think Liverpool are sending players that are never going to make it, or players that are going to come into Air Force team. There's not much of a market out there for us to be making big money. And Kevin Ball says our academy is shy compared to Chelsea's. And look,
it's different.
I wouldn't say it's shy. It's a different model altogether, isn't it, Kev? It's not the same.
To be fair, I think was it last year or the year before they won the FA Youth Cup, and that's usually the marker for where an academy is. But that's the other side. That's the other side of it. See, with when you've got players who become the big time Charlies, you're better. It's the one thing that we have done is cut ties, and rightly so. But I think this current crop that's coming through at the minute, coming through the academy, I think the majority of them will have careers.
Yeah.
Wherever that may be, they might have. Some of them might go on to have good Premier League careers, and hopefully we can capitalize on that by getting some revenue into, especially with the new revenue streams that are coming into the league. It's something that we've got to get very good at very, very quickly.
I think when you look at it, just to add on to Kev's point and the comment there, if you look at like Chelsea's recent sales or take away their loanees, but just like Tomori, even like Hudson-Odoi, he might go eventually as well. Tammy Abraham, you're talking big money. Yeah. We've still got Ben Woodburn, who's just got, I don't know, he did get loaned to Hearts if I'm correct. It's like there's different. It was a loan though. There's different levels to this game. They're selling for big money. We're maybe getting 5 to 10 million. Obviously, you might chuck the Brewsters and the Slankies. I get that, but to be honest, I think we've maybe ran a race a bit with that.
The other thing that we need. And it's fair dues now. You just mentioned him there, Dom Solanke. He's scoring.
That's not a bad signing for Bournemouth when you think about it.
He's scoring goals for fun now. But we need these players that we let go and that we sell for decent money. We need them to work.
Yeah.
We don't want to see. I don't want to see Ryan Brewster as the 20 million kid who left to go to Sheffield United and flop.
Yeah,
that does us no favors.
Exactly.
Great point. Solanke looks good now,
battle, but you're not winning the war.
Exactly. He's looking good now.
Yeah, because for Bournemouth, when you think about it, they signed him, was it 20 million? But he scored last season, scored this season. If Scott Parker can get them promoted, well, they'll say, well, that's 20 million well spent because we're back in the Premier League. And
he's young and they can build their team around him.
And he looks like a much better player. I don't know if you watched him in the Championship. He has, and he looks his movement, he looked very confident now. His biggest problem with Liverpool was his movement was decent, but it was that kind of killer instinct. The Championship's been very good for Dom Solanke. It really has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's plenty of players who have good careers at that level, and 20 million for players at the top end of the championship in this day and age isn't as out there as what it was 10 years ago. Far from it. When you got the likes of Mitrovic staying at Fulham by hook or by crook and still having a good international career, you know, the top end of the championship, bottom 5, 6 in the Premier League, there isn't as much of a gap in there between that as what you'd be led to believe. Plus, it's physically a really demanding league.
Yeah. Something that Paul Smith says here, Shea Ojo has been at Liverpool for too long. And, you know, that's something that I wonder, you know, is it it's not a slight on Jurgen Klopp, don't get me wrong, but is it the payoff that you're having for a Klopp? And I'm not thinking of Ojo, but I'm thinking of like Divock Origi, and I'm thinking of Nat Phillips. When we have these players, and Origi, the year we won the Champions League, we struck lightning in a bottle with him for the 6 months of that, the second half of that season. He comes in against Everton out of cold, scores the goal when Little Arms drops one in front of him, and he goes on a run. We should have sold and been ruthless at that point, because he was okay when Klopp first came in, but he had an injury, but he was never really...
He's not that guy, is he?
The player that we needed, you know, he was never really. Guy. And I know someone's putting, AS is putting there, Origi just didn't want to leave. What can we do? You can sell him on, and we gave him a new contract, I think, after that as well. You know, so
that's a fair point. When a player signs a contract, it works both ways, and there's plenty of clubs, us included, who will almost force players into decisions whether they like it or not. We can't bitch and moan when they turn around, when a player turns around and says, "No, I'm grand. Yeah. If I don't get the move that I want, that's best for me and my career and my family, I'm quite happy to sit here and register me, don't register me. Up to you."
Yeah. I think we all kind of got in that sentiment, didn't we, after the Champions League final? But I think you're right, Kev. The thing where Origi's got me is I think he is like a good finisher, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's numerous strikers out there would suit us better, even in first team system or even coming on with link up play. Like, even if you don't want someone who's amazing at pressing, you want someone who's linking up quite well or offers a different dimension. I feel like Origi, it's either, well, he's not really competition for the first team, and he's not like a kitchen sink striker, if you get what I'm saying. So it's kind of stuck in between, and we need to move on from that, because I feel like it's I don't know, he'll come on, he scores that goal during the week, it's great, and I'm happy for him. I don't dislike him as a person at all, but I just feel like it's
a nice guy.
It's
speaking of moving on, I was just going to say, what did you guys make of the reception that Adam Lallana got yesterday when he came off and at the end?
I think it's a reflection of a player who was maybe not the most popular among some fans in the fan base. I think was a popular figure in the team for his teammates, his manager, and a lot of people appreciated. Very similar to Naby Keita. He was very stop-start, you know. He was a good player. His career was stop-start, but I think people will appreciate a player who runs his balls off. And I think that the overriding image of Adam Lallana was a Klopp's first game, and he falls off the pitch into his arms because he runs the bollocks out of himself in that game. And I think that people appreciate that. And it's similar to Naby, you know, he just couldn't get that consistency. His body couldn't do it, but he gave us all. And I think fans appreciate that. You know, I think fans will always appreciate that. Liverpool fans certainly. Well, he may not be the most popular among some. I think he always gave us all, and he would have liked, I think, to have got more appearances, but never really let you down.
I think. Go on, sorry, Conroy.
No, I was just going to say, I think when I think of Lallana, I think of the start of the Klopp era, and just before that, and you know, like just the start of Klopp era when we're kind of getting rid of not so-called deadwood, but some players just wasn't for it, and then Lallana had stayed. He was the kind of that path from one to the other, and I always liked Lallana because I actually think technically he's probably as good as a lot of players. I'm not saying he's best in the world, but I think as a footballer he was technically very, very gifted, and it was just a case of his body would let him down at times, or it just didn't work out. But I felt like when you see him leaving, there's a presentation and there's like a signed shirt he gets, and you can tell the squad unity was there.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like he was important to that squad, and you can even, I think if you watch the interview when he's leaving, it's like people want to be cynical. I think it meant a lot to Adam Lallana to play for the team, to win things for the team, to be part of that squad and have those memories. And he wasn't like he never scored at Anfield. He actually had some big moments. Old Trafford, terrible one, terrible that day he rescues a point, win the league that year. You can never take that away from him. So I was ecstatic with the reception, but I always thought he was going to get it. I was once at Liverpool Swansea 4-3. The 13-14 season, right? Henderson scored a goal similar to the goal he scored at the weekend. John Joe Shelvey scores to make it 2-1 from about 25 yards out. The full at Anfield was clapping because he played for Liverpool. So if John Joe Shelvey, who fair enough, it was a troubled time, done some things, but nothing compared to what Lallana's done if you talk about the squad and stuff. If he's going to get applauded for scoring a goal at Anfield, Lallana's always going to get a good reception at the end. So I was buzzing for him.
I think for me, it's players who leave in the right way.
Yeah.
If you leave in the right way, and maybe that's why Suarez gets the stick that he does, and Coutinho got the stick that he does. I think if you leave in the right way, in the right manner, do it behind closed doors and not in the media shouting and bawling that I want X, Y, Z. I think fans will respect that. And Liverpool fans, more than most, have very long memories, especially with returning players. I always liked him as a player. I think he's silky smooth in what he does. His body let him down to the extent that the squad passed him out. The technical ability in the squad passed out what he was physically able to give us back, and he saw it in a contract. And Brighton picked up a player, a senior pro, who can do like a Jimmy Milner type job for them. And plus he's a South Coast kid. So look, I'm absolutely made up for him. I'm delighted. I thought the reception after, you see some of the viral videos that went around after the game when the stadium was
not winning as well, drawing that game as well. Yeah,
when the stadium was half empty and he went around and applauded, because that was the first time he was back at a full Anfield after winning the league.
Yeah.
He never got to celebrate it in front of the Kop or in front of the Kenny stand with fans. This is the first time he's been able to do it. The last time he came back, it was an empty stadium. Yeah. So I'm glad the fans remembered. True, yeah. I'm glad the fans remembered, and I think it was a mark. Yeah. It's just a touch of class. You know what I mean? Yeah. Win, lose, or draw, whatever the result is, you know, you can be a bit of a grown-up about it as well. Yeah, applaud someone who deserves it. Fair play.
It's lovely. I just remembered that goal as well. Do you remember when we got Klopp in Europa League? I think it was under Klopp, and we're away. Is it Bordeaux? And he pegs someone, and then he nutmegs someone, and then he like curls the bottom corner. I can't remember if someone in the chat remembers. I remember thinking that was like a vintage Lallana, you know, like Southampton goal, just through the guy's legs and whips it in the bottom corner. Yeah,
he's such a skillful player.
He was, yeah. I remember with Southampton, he was very good at a dead ball as well. And he was the one that was coming through. He was the last one of the Southampton academy. You know, everyone else had gone. The likes of Walcott had gone, Ox had gone. Lallana stayed there for a good while. I think he played when he came through at Southampton when they were in League One.
Yeah, he did, mate. Yeah,
and in the Championship. So he knows, you know, he was introduced to grown-up football, and you watch games in League One, and that's proper football.
He was captain there as well. He was captain.
Yeah, he was captain for a good while. He's had a hell of a career, and I think the experience that he's passing on now to Brighton is telling in the way they play and the confidence that the other players around him have in their game. You know, to make the runs, to press when they need to press. He's still the trigger. I mean, he won't. If Brighton get into Europe, I think then he might struggle body-wise. But you know, fair play. He's still doing really well.
Yeah, and it was a nice touch, you know. But before we just wrap up on that game, lads, last week I felt Liverpool didn't get the credit they deserved. It was all about how poor Manchester United were, which was fine. This week, we have to say that Brighton came, and while we shouldn't be giving up a 2-goal lead at home against any team, they're a good side. They're a good side, and they're a well-coached team. And I think, sometimes you have to be at your best. You can't take games for granted, and not against good teams like that, or you'll be found out. And I think Liverpool were just a bit complacent, or maybe a bit mentally tired after going to Old Trafford and going to the Wanda and getting the results they needed. That I don't know if they just took their foot off and didn't put the effort in. But teams like that, Kev, they're going to punish you, aren't they? They're the teams that you have to really put it in. There's teams in this league that cannot do that, and Brighton are the team that will.
They're one of them. Leicester, another one. I mean, the thing is, you often see, people forget, I think our record at the minute this season so far is 15-4-0.
Yeah.
We're unbeaten for a fair while. We're still unbeaten. As much as the downer for yesterday's result, and it turned me off football. I didn't bother watching any of the games in the afternoon.
Kev, you watch.
I didn't watch the United Spurs game. I watched 20 minutes of it. I got sick of it. I stuck FIFA.
Pure standard, anyway, mate. Pure standard.
And I looked at it and I thought, this could be the kick up the arse they need. That I've often seen Klopp sides, us in general, go into games not at it, expecting to get the win because we're at home and because, we're on fire, we're scoring goals for fun, we should get a win. I hope to God this is a kick up the hole for a lot of them. That, if you're Konate, you have to be right. If you're Virgil, you have to be right. Your centre mid, you have to track your runners. I thought Sadio, for everything and anything, for his first game back, he was tracking. He was coming back and he was harassing and trying to win the ball back. It was just not as organised as what I'd like to see it. And I hope the Klopp gets it into him and we see a quick turnaround when we move on to Atletico. And I think it's Tuesday night.
Yeah.
We're into that run-of-the-mill season now.
Wednesday, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it was bang, bang, bang with the games now. There's games very regular. We need to get Thiago back. We need to get Fabinho back. You can't expect those three to turn out on Wednesday night and then turn out against West Ham. And if they're not physically right, or if they're close, they have to be available. No messing now. I know it's like you only need a draw to get through and a win to top the group, but get the damn win.
Yeah, you can't go in with that mentality. You can't go in thinking, a draw is okay, because then you'll get punished.
Yeah, that never works, is it? You can't go into a game getting a draw. And I think Anfield as well, Atletico Madrid, the fans want a bit of a few, that knockout stage when we dominated them for 90 minutes and then lost in extra time. We've not forgot that as well. So I think set out the stall and it's a great game to come back into as well.
There's a comment in there. We've 7 games in 22 days after the international break. So does everyone else.
Yeah.
Anyone else who's involved in Europe has 7 games in 22, 23, 24 days as well. So, we've all got 24 men squads and they're all going to be needed. This is now where you're going to start seeing gaps in the table. And you look at the Premier League table at the minute, and I said it last week, I think the goal difference tells you, gives you a reflection of where sides really are. Yeah. And our goal difference at the minute is good. We're in the top 3. We want to stay in the top 3 till Christmas. Give ourselves a fighting chance to get into the last third of the season in and around the top 3, and then we'll know where we are.
Exactly. Yes. You've also got a quarter final of the League Cup to look forward to. You could be well placed there. You get out of your Champions League group, or you're positioned nicely, and you're in the top 3. And you're not chasing a runaway leader, which is what you don't want to happen. Because I suppose Chelsea are going to have the World Club Cup as well. I'm sure. Is that on this year?
Yeah, it is. I think it is. Yeah.
And the thing is, Chelsea. I just a little bit more positive about the weekend as well. City lost, so to be honest, we dropped points, and I know we could look at it that if we'd won, we'd have got further away. But us not losing, and after that Trossard goal that I thought he was onside and it was just off, so thankfully, a point for me means we're 2 points away from them. Because I still think Chelsea will drop points. I feel like if you might disagree, guys, and I might be a bit
No,
I think if City were on top, I feel like City can steamroll it. Whereas I do believe Chelsea, I've just seen been good, but I do think there were certain games that they will struggle, especially if you look at how Brentford were
surprising
amazing
games.
against them.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can catch Chelsea, and with City just getting that 2 points, and I know you might think it's not much, but United are coming next weekend. United have just won 3-0. They might drop again. So I think if we can win during the week and capitalise against West Ham, which we probably, West Ham has no mugs as well after seeing it, but I just think Chelsea can be caught. By no means they're going to run away with it. So get the win during the week, get the Champions League sorted out, and then we can just play the kids or the reserves for the last 2 games.
If we can get through this week with two positive results, I think the performance yesterday, the result yesterday can be not parked away, but it can be sort of said, right, we dropped 2 points, we didn't get beaten. Yeah. We've gained so many points and we're still in the mix. And I think that's important. But before we finish up, lads, Atletico, Kev, do you go with the same team that finished, not that finished the game, but let's say Naby is out. Would you go with the same defence? Would you go with Ox in the midfield?
No,
would you go with the front three? How would you say it?
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we see Joe Gomez play, maybe Matip as well. Not wholesale changes, but I wouldn't mind seeing at least Tsimikas given a run. I wouldn't mind seeing Matip or Gomez come back in, maybe both. You're not exactly bringing in novices.
Yeah.
The midfield, hopefully you can get an hour out of Fabinho. I wouldn't like to see Henderson, Ox, and Jones.
Yeah.
I would love Klopp to play a diamond. I would love him to play a 4 in midfield and play 2 up top and see what happens. I would love him to bolster the midfield and because Atletico, before we came on, I didn't know that they'd played this weekend, so I quickly looked up how they lined up. And they lined up 3-4-1-2 with Hermoso and
Jimenez, was it?
Jimenez and Savic as a back 3 with Trippier and Carrasco as wing backs. So I'm pretty sure they're going to go the same again, with the same system again, 3-5-2. And I'd love us to go with something different because I think it could be lambs to the slaughter if you play Henderson, Jones, and Ox in a midfield 3 against that.
Yeah,
I think
against Koke and
it's the whiff. Yeah, it's the whiff that they get from their fullbacks, where Sadio and Mo don't track back enough to give enough cover to our fullbacks. So we'd either have to be really brave with our centre backs and hold a really, really high line, and our fullbacks to bomb on and press their fullbacks back, or play a diamond in midfield and retain possession that way.
Yeah, Conroy, what about yourself? How do you see us lining up?
Real interesting shout with Kev there. What I would say is I would just assume that Fabinho plays a bit. I think it'd be Fabinho, Jones, and Henderson in the middle. And I don't know if you think Thiago might maybe back possibly or no chance.
Thiago might be back before Fabinho.
So if we're going with that, then I would say Thiago, Hendo, and Jones. I think Jones would be the one who always, even though I've noticed he does get a lot of criticism for. Yeah, he wasn't great, but he is still a young guy. I think we have to have a bit more patience
he has
for
a
him.
lot of positives, and I think we hold him to too high a standard.
Yeah, I definitely, because I feel like it's funny how certain players. It's like Elliott was brilliant, but Elliott gave the ball away a lot in games as well. But because it was positive, it's fine. Whereas I think Jones, I think he's good. He just not every game's amazing, but he's still a young guy. So I don't know why we're so keen on criticising. I understand criticising performance, but I still think he's got a future at Liverpool. But so I think Jones coming. For me, I actually think it won't happen, but I think Tsimikas should play. Robbo's not been as bad, I'd say, for every game that people are saying. For me, it's a mixed bag. It's like he has one really good game. Porto, brilliant. United, City, pretty good, And then it'll be like the Brentford, the Atletico was Brentford was his worst game he's ever played for Liverpool. Yeah. Atletico wasn't great. He got assist, but it wasn't a great game. And then the other day, to be honest, I don't think he was horrendous. I think it was an average game, but just with the way Atletico set up, as you say, Kev, if it's that 5, and Trippier is good, but it's not as if he's I still feel like a Shimicast, there can be an overload down there. And what I mean is I'm not terrified that Shimicast is going to get, because he's not really showed he's poor defensively, but against the maybe top teams, I don't think he would get crucified.
Yeah, I don't think
to play. Exactly, I don't think he'd be exposed is a better word. So I think Shimicast should play, and I think Robbo, it'd maybe be a good time to do it, because it's maybe not that Shimicast is in, but if he does this, it might, I know someone made a comment the other day, light the fire a bit. For me, it's a good comment, but it's more the consistency. He's been so consistent for so many years, but right now it seems to be one really good game, one game where he's poor or average, and it's a bit all over the place, where you've got Shimicast who's just crossing, he looks confident right now. I think Robbo, he just feels a bit, I don't know, it's like he seems to do stuff that's worked so many times and he's not mixing up, even like set pieces. Stop whipping it, put your foot through a corner, try that, try dinking it in, just try something different. You're not beating the first man with that set piece. So for me, it'd be a good time to do it, because then you can probably manage it in a way to say, you're right, you're back in against West Ham. So for me, that I think that should happen. People might be surprised, but I think Shimicast should play. And then I think it'd be Jota comes in for Mane. For me, Jota comes in for Mane.
Yeah, interesting. Red Steve said his battery only has about 50 minutes left, so we should keep going till 12:30 to make up for the shoddy start. I'd love to, but I don't know how long I can keep the boys here. I don't know how long I can keep them here. It's been a great show, lads, and thanks very much for coming on. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that you came on and we had a nice little chat after a slow start by me. Put my hands up on that.
Fine,
even though Grizz got a lot of the blame at the start, it was nothing to do with Grizz. It was all me. But now look, it was a great chat, and it's interesting to see, you know, when the game comes up, you know, it's a poor result yesterday, but we can sort of.
I think the extra day gives you a bit of perspective.
Yeah.
The immediate aftermath of the match, I was like a dog.
Yeah.
You know, I was.
Yeah, at the Halloween party, Kev. So I was on the wine straight away. I was on the wine straight away.
I was in such bad form after that, and it was. I watched it again today, and there was a lot of parts of that game that I thought I was really happy with. There was especially the first half an hour. I'd say some side between now and Christmas, some side is going to get a right hiding. I mean, Man United are a bad side, so I expected us, if we were going to win, that we'd win it comfortable. But I honestly think we're going to give some side an absolute pasting with the way that we're playing at the minute up front. Whether we'll be able to keep it to 0, I'd like to see a couple of more clean sheets. But yeah, there was large parts of that first half, large bits of the way we played going forward. I was like, yeah, we're going to absolutely tonk someone soon.
Yeah.
You know, you could feel it before the Palace game last year that it was coming. Someone was going to be on the end of a hiding.
Yeah.
And I'm getting that feeling again that someone is going to get absolutely roasted soon.
And that was a weird one, that Palace one, because we only had 8 shots and scored 7. And do you know what I mean? And then we just sort of fell off a cliff after that as well. And it's like, this is different now. You're right. This is totally different. But look, before we finish up, I just want to give a shout out to Sienna Steps. I know we always mention that she's close to the target. If anybody can look, if you can donate. There's the link there for the GoFundMe. It's in the title of the show, description, all that sort of stuff. But even if you share it, you know, I think they're about €3,000 away from 120,000 goal, which is brilliant. Everybody has supported. A lot of our listeners, we hands up, you know, you've done a great job with spreading the far and wide. So anything we can get on that to help Sienna would be brilliant. And I think then the lads will be back tomorrow with the forum. We're playing Wednesday night, so I'd imagine the midweek fix is going to be moved to Tuesday. We'll have a pre- and post-game show Wednesday. I'm sure there'll be a carnage Thursday, Sports Unplugged Friday, and then back again next Sunday. So busy week as usual on the Daytripper. So look, Conroy, thank you very much for coming on and joining me tonight.
No, thanks very much for having us, Keith. It was superb, and yeah, actually a really good chat about it. And I think what Kev said as well, after you get a full bottle of white wine last night, dress up for Halloween. Shout out to People Just Do Nothing, the TV show. I went as MC Grinder last night. Corrupt FM, the rest are irrelevant. No, it was a good night. It was a really good night. I mean, the scariest thing yesterday was Liverpool's second half performance. But I was going to say that at the start. But no, jokes aside, but it was. I know, mate. I know, but it was do Gav's midweek fix. He's the little buzzer he's got. I could use that there. Yeah. But no, it was I watched it, a bit like Kev, I watched it again today, sorry, and it's I think on reflection, just to add what I said earlier, I know people, sometimes I'm a half glass full person, but genuinely I think it's been a really good start to the season, and I think you've got to take the good with the bad at times. Like we smashed Man United 5-0. We usually take a draw there because of the way the season's going or just our form there, and then we've drew with Brighton. Every game's different. You take what you can. We're on a great run, and let's just focus on the week. And I think West Ham, Atletico and West Ham it's great that this is not an international break. We're going straight into two big games. That I think we'll go full guns blazing, and I think that's good. See, if we had an international break now, we'd all be frustrated and annoyed. And it's good timing that those games are straight away.
Indeed. And Kev, thank you very much for joining us again tonight. I know you two boys are quite regulars now, but it's great to have you on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's a first for me this on a Sunday night. Is normally in the chat shouting in comments left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
comments have been banging tonight. Thanks very much for everyone who's in the chat
100%.
tonight and stuck with it and found the new stream and what have you. The chat has been absolutely hopping. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you very much.
Yep. There's
no,
a shout there.
I knew I was going to say that. If you watch it, MC Grinder is the guy from. But fair enough, mate. That's your quick read, Steve. I don't expect anything less from you, but it's people just do nothing. It's a very good show, though. If you like the UK office, you'll like that. But yeah, fair enough, mate. Quick.
But look, Kev was spot on there. You know, the chat's hopping. The chat's always hopping. It's one of the things that we appreciate the most on the Day Trippers. And it's like Kev was a chat regular and he came in, and others have been in the chat, Chris and Avi and that were involved in the chat and they've come on shows. So it's great that the chat is so active. We always think it's the best chat around any of these shows, and we stand by that and we keep saying it. So, you know, with that support, we always do appreciate it. So if you can hit a like or a subscribe, we appreciate that. We appreciate every little bit of support we get. So thank you very much. But lads, we're going to finish up there. Thanks for joining us tonight. It wasn't the best result at the weekend, but is it 2 points dropped or a point gained? We'll know at the end of the season. We've been the Fatback Four, and we'll see you all again soon.